I can't say I know how close he became. I know he knew many leaders and shared Christ openly with them. Now,
How come, you think?
why did he share Christ with them?
And I mean, why did they, I mean, to talk to him at all? I mean, were they so interested in Jesus, or were they so interested in him?
I think he had a presence about him, and yet he had such a love for people that I think that it didn't matter if it was the taxi cab driver or the president of a country. Abram loved them for who they were. Not that they were a president, but because God loved them so much that he gave his life for them. And I think that reality was so real in Abram's life that he loved people. But he did have a presence about him. I mean, if he walked into a room, you thought he probably was an ambassador or you know, somebody who was something. But he always said he was the son of a king.
To the people? He said that to the people?
He was an ambassador for Jesus Christ.
He said so?
That's who he represented, the King of Kings.
A number of things that really impressed me early was Dad taking time. He had a very busy schedule, but there were certain people that he took a real interest in. There was one gentleman that we would go out to on an island, Vashon Island, outside of Seattle in Puget Sound, and there was a Dad had helped get started a farm there. It's for poor people. At that time, there was no place for the very poor to go, and there was a gentleman that he had discovered who had no home, and so he got him situated in a farm. And but we would always stop and see this old gentleman. I always was impressed by the way he would pray with him and spend time with him, and in spite of a very busy schedule, and that was early on. And another early impression that I had was of going and visiting some lady in the Seattle area who we walked down steps down into a basement apartment. And I remember coming to that lady and Dad spending time with her, and she was all crippled, terribly crippled, in awful pain with arthritis, and yet she had a glow in her face and just a real sense of the Lord there. And Dad would make visits with her. Maybe he would receive more from that visit than what he'd give. But
I can remember once when my sister was out playing in the Sheridan Circle. This was when we were in the 3rd and 4th grade, and there was a drunk man out there. And Grandpa had a meeting on the house. My sister and I, we ran in, interrupted Abram's meeting, and said, "Grandpa, you have to come out to the statue. There's somebody out there who needs Jesus very badly." And Abram used that as an illustration to his group there of the importance of sharing Christ and the reality of Christ. And he went out immediately and told this man and says, "Well, you can go out and invite him in, and we'll give him something to eat, and we'll talk to him about the Lord."
We were driving. We had moved from Seattle, and we moved to Washington, and then one year we made a trip back driving across the United States, and Dad had breakfast meetings planned along the way at various places, but we got to one town where he didn't have any meetings lined up ahead of time. So he went downtown to City Hall, and he got hold of, and I remember sitting outside the offices there waiting for him, but he made contact with the mayor and the city council and other officials, and he arranged to have a breakfast the next morning. Now, you would think that would be impossible, but he did it. And it seemed like the Lord would just lead, the doors would open, and it was just amazing what he was able to accomplish in a very short time.
Is it true that he kind of had such a desire to tell people about Jesus that he could just go out and take a cab and just talk to the driver without really going anywhere?
Yes, right. I won't tell you the name of the individual, but Mummy said that once that they were on this trip, and it was a very wealthy person. Anyway, they were driving, and it said, "Do not enter." It was a beautiful estate, and Abram said, "We're entering." And they all said, "No," it says, "Dad, you're not to enter." And he said, "No, the Lord's told me I'm to go here." So they drove in. The man said, "I'm sorry, you can't go in. So-and-so is not there." And Abram said, "But I'm supposed to meet with him. I've been told I'm to meet with him." And because of his presence, the man let him in. And he went out to the pool where the gentleman was and told him about Christ. After he had left what he felt God wanted him to do, then he left. And Mommy said that would happen more times, that it was just as if the Lord had told him, "Now stop here and share Christ with this person or share Christ with that person."
He would very often, he'd go out driving, take Mother out driving, and he would see a child alongside the road, and he knew very well where he was going, but he'd stop and ask directions to some place that was well known, and the reason for it was an opportunity to start talking to the child, and sooner or later he'd start saying, "Where do you go to Sunday school?" and very spiritual type questions, and usually have a very meaningful dialogue with that child. And so he, even though he was primarily ministry in the latter years, was all with leadership, he still maintained his love and concern and interest in ordinary people, and really didn't seem to differentiate.
Da Doug Coe besøkte Norge i 1997, fikk han audiens hos kong Harald på slottet. Doug Coe var Abraham Vereides assistent i 10 år, og ble den naturlige arvtager etter Vereide da Abraham døde. Coe utstrålte et lignende nærvær av Guds godhet da han møtte folk rundt om i verden.
Yes. And he thinks the world of all you kids. You speak English? Yes. You know where the king is? You know where he is?
Did you talk to him?
And he's very nice, and he loves all the kids of this country. He does. He loves all the children, and he loves Norway.
Yes.
And
What's your name?
I'm just a friend from America.
Okay, but what's your name?
Hey, listen. Now what is this holding up? Is this a microphone of some kind? Hey, now listen. Okay, now put your hands down. I'm going to tell you something. You want to know something great about your country?
Yeah.
The king's father also was a very good king. And you read about his father? And his grandfather was a very good. The kings of Norway are very, very good kings. And all of them, you know what the kings of Norway are known for around the world? One, they're very honest. They're very honest kings. And then they are kings who love God and love Jesus. All of the kings love Jesus, and even your future king. Did you know that?
No.
And then they're very honest, and then they're natural leaders. They love the people.
Why are you in Norway now?
Oh, why am I here? No, I came here to see some of the people in your parliament that are very good people.
You know President King.
Yes, he's a very nice man, but he did a very bad thing. And you know, sometimes when you do bad things, you have to learn and grow, and you have to ask God to forgive you, and then He forgives you, right? Huh? And then, so you need to pray for him. You've seen it on TV. So you pray for my president, will you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, listen, we'll see. You come and see us someday in America, okay?
Og det frimotet han slik fikk i arbeidet, det kunne til tider gi seg utslag i en oppførsel som vi vanligvis ville kalle uhøflig. Det var ikke alltid, det var vel slett ikke noen gang, så enkelt å få audiens hos disse her høye herrene som han gjerne ville snakke med. For jeg var så opptatt. Han ble møtt av en sekretær som fortalte det, at han kunne ikke få treffe dem nå, eller de kanskje var opptatt i et viktig møte. Og da bare takket han for svaret, og så gikk han likevel beint på, og åpnet døra og gikk inn. Og fann han ikke vedkommende på kontoret, eller de var opptatt i et møte de han ville finne, så gikk han og gløtte på dør til dess han fann de han ville treffe. Han hefta ikke de mange minuttene, men han fikk sagt det han ville.
One thing that was just unbelievable to me was the way that he could get in an elevator. You'd never think of spending time in an elevator to make a contact for spiritual things, but he could get on an elevator. These were back in the days when there used to be elevator operators, and he would be talking to the elevator operator about asking him about his spiritual things and where he stood with the Lord. And between the first and the seventh floor or wherever he was going, to think that you could accomplish anything in that time. Most people would never even attempt it. But he would, and amazing things would follow up occasionally with that, where the person would have later contact with Dad in one form or another. And that always impressed me. It embarrassed me as a child. I was extremely embarrassed by that. But later I got to learn that that was, a first priority.
One time when I used to take him an awful lot to, to the train stations or the airplanes. And one time I took him, I'll never forget, took him to the airplane, and the fellow who came and picked up his luggage, he was talking to him, and they brought his luggage in, and then when he came back, he said, you have got to meet my daughter, my granddaughter. So he introduced me to him, and he said, this man has just come to know Jesus Christ. This is my brother. And he was a good-looking black man. But in the meantime, he had shared Christ with him as he brought his luggage in. And he brought him back and introduced him to me. And he was constantly doing this.